Harvey continues to strengthen in the Gulf of Mexico.
It's expected to strengthen, unfortunately, and it's expected to come pretty close to Corpus Christi.
It's a full-blown out hurricane.
Because this is going to be very devastating and dangerous to that region.
I don't know if old Harvey has made landfall yet, but it looks like it's pretty darn close.
The winds are definitely picking up out here.
Down trees.
That's Zone A. That needs to be evacuated.
Nobody in sight. The street lights are out.
This is a Cat 4. We now have a Category 4 hurricane.
130-mile-an-hour winds. We're right in the Aransas County area.
Got between 15, 20, up to 30 inches of rain.
I underestimated. I really underestimated it.
Homes, family members, their houses were ruined.
Because lives cannot be replaced. This stuff can.
It certainly goes down into the record books here.
And the other thing that I know for sure is that this will happen again.
This is Prepared and Safe, a Chris 6 News Hurricane Special with Chief Meteorologist Dale Nelson and Meteorologist Maclovia Perez, Juan Acuna, and Tom Harris. Presented by CCAC and Window World.
Hello, I'm Meteorologist Dale Nelson, and this is the 2019 Chris 6 Hurricane Special.
And I'm Meteorologist Juan Acuna. Thank you so much for joining us.
Juan, you know, a lot of hurricane preparedness that applied 20 years ago is still good today and for the future, but there are a lot of new things that have come along recently, and we're going to discuss those in this hurricane special.
That's right, Dale. You know, the storms, they don't change. You know, they might change in intensity and as far as how big and how much wind that they have, but you know, the technology that we've been getting over the last couple of years gets better and better, so we detect the storms better, and we can give watches and warnings better to the community as well.
That's right. One of the big things is that new Gulfstream 4 aircraft that flies over the top of the storms, and also it's worth mentioning here that no two storms are alike. That's so right. If you went through a Carla or a Celia or an Allen or a Hurricane Gilbert in the past, doesn't mean that's the way it's going to be in the future when a storm in that same position is headed in this general direction.
That's absolutely right. Just like Harvey we went through in 2017, there will never be another Harvey, and but we always have to be prepared for the Harvey or the previous storms that have come into the region. That's exactly correct. So here is the latest information on how to be prepared and have a plan.
And I would put it this way, you know, a real bad hurricane is a rare event. So you have a chance of living your lifetime and never seeing one. And because of that, there's a complacency, and we don't want to respond, and we don't want to be educated about bad things are.
It's just not survivable. And even if it were, the misery and suffering that you would endure for days afterwards, it's just not worth it.
I've seen the footage. I've seen the statistics. I've walked the ground in past events and seen entire communities annihilated, homes stripped down to the slab. If you're asked to go, you absolutely have to.
When a watch or warning goes into effect, it's important to know what the difference is and also how a storm forms and develops. A watch means storm conditions are possible and could reach your coastal area within 48 hours.
So a watch is sort of like, you know, kind of giving you a sense that things might not be going well, and maybe you should be elevating your sense of awareness and getting ready. What's going to happen if this gets bad?
A warning means storm conditions are expected to move into our area within 36 hours. A tropical storm has winds of 39 to 73 miles an hour, while a hurricane has winds of 74 miles an hour or greater.
So the warning is our ability to simultaneously say to everybody within a given area, it's going to be bad.
Even though tropical storms have lower wind speeds than hurricanes, a tropical storm commonly brings destructive and life-threatening flooding. Hurricanes are ranked by category from 1 to 5. Category 1 is the weakest. Winds can range between 74 and 95 miles an hour. With a Category 2 storm, you can expect extreme winds and extensive damage. A Category 3 storm will have winds between 111 and 129 miles an hour, while with a Category 4 storm, you're looking at catastrophic damage. The worst of the storms is a Category 5, with winds of more than 156 miles an hour, and you're looking at a devastating situation.
If you shut your eyes and envision a hurricane, what do you see? You see palm trees, you see rain moving sideways. You don't see the ocean coming inland.
Contrary to popular belief, wind is not the biggest killer in a hurricane. It is often water, and more often than not, it is storm surge.
90% of fatalities in tropical systems because of the water, it's not the wind. So you have to get away from the water and then make sure you just kind of hide from the wind.
That's where the new emphasis on hurricane awareness is headed. So first of all, let's talk about what storm surge is.
In its simplest form, a storm surge is just the force of the wind in any strong storm. Hurricane is just a classic example. Pushing the ocean onto the land, and so it just pushes the water inland where it normally does not go.
Usually the people in the first row of homes along the beach will have no problem being convinced that the ocean might invade their home.
Water will go up the river the same way it goes down the river. So you have to think of rivers as pathways for the ocean to come inland. It helps the ocean to come inland. So if you live near a river and you're within a couple-hour drive of the coastline, you got to sort of scratch your head and say, hey, maybe this is a problem for me.
Know your risk, right? So if you're right on the coast, if you're out on the barrier islands, you know you're going to get the storm surge, so you have to have a place to go.
Storm surge graphics are now being used to help people understand how bad the storm surge is going to be in terms of how high the water is going to get at any given coastal location.
And so this graphic accomplishes that. It tells you how deep the water could be and how far inland the water could go.
Even though it rarely happens in any given storm, you must prepare for the worst case scenario.
And I was looking through the damage as usual, and the husband and wife who owned the residence where I was at came up to me, and I asked them why they left. And they started to describe a map that they had seen, and it looked bad. They had looked at our forecast and made a conscious decision to get out, and it probably saved their life. And it's those little moments in time that drive you and propel you to make it just a little bit better.
Department of Public Safety is telling us that in the mandatory evacuation areas, people there absolutely need to get out now before those roads become too congested.
You live in those low-lying areas that you get out, and you begin to get out now.
The time period to evacuate is running out.
Planning out an evacuation route is a vital part of hurricane planning. You must decide if you are staying or leaving before there is a storm in the Gulf. Here's something to remember. If you live along the coastline, do not take I-35 as that runs directly along the coast. You must find a way to get over to I-37. If you plan to evacuate the area, plan to leave early and prepare for a longer than expected drive time. Take along food, water, medications, and plenty of gas. Once you've evacuated, wait for the all clear from city emergency officials before attempting to return to your home.
After the break, what things you need to buy and what you need to do around your home before a storm strikes. Stay with us.
You're watching Prepared and Safe, a Chris 6 News Hurricane Special, presented by CCAC and Window World.
Whether you're planning to stay or go during a hurricane or tropical storm, preparation and planning is vital.
But during a natural disaster, you need to know there are certain things you just can't live without. The first stop is the food aisle. Now, it is recommended that you have enough food for at least 7 days, and you should get things like cans, non-perishable items that won't go bad if you don't have electricity.
Well, obviously, water is important before, during, and after a storm. It is estimated that you should have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. I would estimate 5 to 7 days.
And don't forget about your pets. They're also going to need an ample supply of food, water, and other pet care items.
And here's something really important, Tom. It's known as a manual can opener. That and, of course, a first aid kit. Both of these very important during a storm.
Another thing you're going to want to make sure that you have is all the medications that you're going to need, as well as hygiene products or any specialty items that you may need for the elderly or small children.
Don't forget the batteries, a weather radio, and a flashlight. As we learned from Harvey last year, an area could be without power for several days or even weeks. That's why it is important to have cash on hand. Since in many cases ATM machines will be down and banks will be closed, make sure you also have copies of important documents like your insurance and medical records. You'll need your bank account and credit card numbers and your Social Security card. If you own a boat, you are responsible for finding a safe location on land for your boat. Don't wait until the storm is just hours away. If you leave your boat in the city marina, you will be responsible for any damages done by your vessel to others. Make sure you have your boat's registration, engine number, and description. Take a picture of it. You may need it for insurance purposes.
We can't forget about our other family members, our pets. And there are plenty of steps you and I can take to get our pets through a storm. First, we want to evacuate with our animals.
When evacuating your pets, make sure you have a carrier for each animal. If your pet is not used to traveling in a carrier, do some trial runs. Label each carrier with your contact information and the name of the pet inside. Be sure to look for pet-friendly lodging since many hotels do not allow animals. Create a pet evacuation kit so that everything they need is packed and ready to go in the event evacuation orders are issued. Make sure your pet is up to date on all vaccinations. You'll likely be able to keep your animals with you, but in the event that they must be boarded at a shelter, your animal must be current on all vaccinations. Have your pet microchipped. A tiny microchip is injected under the animal's skin where it remains for the rest of your pet's life. In case you or your pet get separated, to be reunited with your pet, you must have current ID on your pet. Create an identification file for each pet. The file should include current photographs of your pet, microchip ID number, adoption papers, a written description of your pet, a description of distinctive markings, medications, vaccination history, and place the file in a waterproof folder or a Ziploc bag.
Up next, find out how to prepare your home for a hurricane or tropical storm.
You're watching Prepared and Safe, a Chris 6 News Hurricane Special, presented by CCAC and Window World.
Hurricane season is here. Most Coastal Bend residents know what kind of destruction a hurricane can cause. That's why we must do everything we can to prepare.
The effect of Hurricane Harvey, look at that power pole.
We lost radios, we've lost the internet, we lost local phone service.
And no idea when that's going to be
911 went down for a while. No, sir, we don't right now.
We have no power unless you have your own generator.
It's been hot. We all had to sleep in the car just for AC.
Third day with no power.
There's work to be done, and we continue to try to, again, practice safety, and because we know that there's a lot of people still without power.
Zero cell phone service at all, zero.
You think about your cell phone not working, there's no television, there's nothing. I mean, you don't have power for weeks. I mean, that is something that we don't really think about. And that's what we have to think about when it comes to after a hurricane. And that's why you have to be ready, you have to be prepared.
We cannot control Mother Nature, which is why it is important to make sure you know what to do before a storm strikes. Crews with AEP Texas practice to make sure everyone knows their role during a disaster to make sure people are without power for as short a period of time as possible.
Well, after a storm, immediately we're going to ask everyone, stay safe. Safety is the first priority. Watch children, watch pets. What we do is we train all year long and we're ready for it. We also participate in something called mutual assistance. So if there is a natural disaster or a storm in another state, sometimes our crews go there to help restore power for their customers. And in turn, during a hurricane, many times crews come here and we welcome them with open arms because that's what it's going to take to get the power up and running for a city if we were to lose power on a large scale during a hurricane. Now, during a power outage, we always ask people prepare for a hurricane, build an emergency kit.
Now is the time to make sure your home is ready for hurricane season. Here's Juan with some steps you can do now.
Plants, lawn furniture, and even a flagpole could be potentially dangerous projectiles during a storm. That's why all unsecured items need to be moved inside or anchored down. The next step, protect your windows. There is no point in protecting a few windows if you do not protect them all. Taping windows will not prevent them from breaking and is a very bad idea. You need to have window covers for every opening. The easiest and cheapest way is plywood that is at least 5/8 inch thick, but 3/4 of an inch is always the best. There are a variety of other window covers that are also available. Another option to consider is high impact resistant windows, which basically means you don't have to cover them at all. You should also trim large tree limbs around and above your home. Limbs often damage roofs when broken off by high winds. If mandatory evacuation orders are issued, before you leave, turn off your water, gas, and electricity. Clean out your refrigerator. If the power goes out, perishables like milk and meat will spoil before you return home. It is also a good idea to take pictures of your valuables now, especially anything you want insurance to replace if it is damaged in the storm. And to protect smaller valuables, put them in plastic watertight bags. Same goes with anything irreplaceable like photographs and birth certificates. If you choose to stay, make sure you have plenty of fresh water for drinking and flushing. Fill your bathtub and any pots and pans with water. Also, turn your refrigerator to the coldest setting. This is going to help keep your food a little fresher longer should the power go out. If you do not evacuate, here are some things you need to keep in mind. If a hurricane ends up hitting your area, stay away from all of your home's windows and doors. Stay in a secure area like a closet or bathroom that is located in the center of your home on the lowest floor. You could also close all the bedroom doors and stay in the hallway. Cover your heads with a mattress to block any debris during the storm.
Keep in mind that insurance coverage cannot be purchased once a storm enters the Gulf of Mexico. Bottom line, it's good to review your insurance coverage with your agent well before a storm threatens the coastal bend. There is more hurricane information coming up after the break.
We're lucky to be alive, and yeah, there's a ton of people that are really devastated in a lot worse situation than we are.
People pull together in things like this, you know, especially in Texas and South Texas. Everybody pulls together as one big family.
So the next time they tell you there's a hurricane?
Yeah, I'm leaving. That was too close, you know. But I was suggesting next time everybody leave, because that was real dangerous.
You're watching Prepared and Safe, a Chris 6 News Hurricane Special.
Tom Harris joins us now with some other information you need to be aware of after a storm hits.
After the storm has passed, this is what you need to do. Wait until an area is declared safe before re-entering. Watch Chris 6 or check out our website, christv.com, and Chris 6 social media pages, or listen to NOAA Weather Radio. Watch for flooded roads, and if you encounter one, make sure you turn around and don't drown. Stay on firm ground as standing water may be electrically charged from power lines, and watch for poisonous snakes. Once you're home, check all of your appliances for damage along with gas, water, and electrical lines. Never use candles or other open flames indoors. Instead, use a flashlight to inspect for damage. Make sure officials say it's safe to use tap water before drinking or preparing food. If you have a generator, make sure you follow the standard electrical code and follow the owner's manual from the manufacturer to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning and other hazards.
After the break, we'll recap why it's so important to be prepared and have a plan.
You're watching Prepared and Safe, a Chris 6 News Hurricane Special.
People always want to know how many storms are being predicted for the upcoming hurricane season. The problem is that information is not very helpful. The reason, there is no way to determine where or when a storm will hit before it actually forms. But here's the 2019 seasonal hurricane forecast for the Atlantic Basin. We are expecting to have a below normal hurricane season with 13 named storms, of which only 5 will become hurricanes. 2 of those are expected to be major hurricanes, which of course are Category 3 or higher. Because all of this uncertainty exists, you have to be prepared each year as though we are going to get hit.
It's too late to prepare when the hurricane's headed towards you because it's stressful, you don't have time to think about it. The time is now. It's having that family plan, making sure that you have, everything you need, medicine, water, food for a week after a hurricane, because you got to be on your own for a little bit before help comes. So now is the time to get ready.
There'll be some times when we can go 5, maybe 10 years without anything happening, and other periods where we may be affected several years in a row. That's something Major Jeremy Dehart knows firsthand. He is one of several pilots that fly into hurricanes to collect the data scientists need to determine the path of the storm.
Well, I mean, obviously the last couple of years have been very active, both in the Pacific and the Atlantic. It's kind of luck of the draw, so to speak, when it comes to flying these storms. We had a weather officer that did this for almost 20 years, never flew one Category 5 hurricane in the 20 years, and I've been in 3 now in just the last 3 years.
We know this is a lot of information, but don't worry. Social media sites like the Chris 6 Facebook page give you access to this information anytime you need it.
That's right. You should really consider downloading our mobile weather app. We have set up a link on our website at christv.com that will take you directly to the App Store. The mobile weather app is free and has up-to-the-minute accurate information on what is happening in our area.
And for those folks who have Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, and Chromecast, make sure you download the Chris 6 News app. This hurricane special is available on demand. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Prepared and Safe, a Chris 6 News Hurricane Special, presented by CCAC and Window World.